Welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast. I'm so glad all of you are here. We're recording live from Austin, Texas, and with me in studio today is none other than Muhammad Ali.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
You feeling good?
Yep.
And he just preached an incredible sermon on this past Sunday, which I'm super excited about sharing with all of you. And then also in studio today is none other than Mrs. Catie Sass, a.k.a. Ava's mom. And how's parenting going?
Oh, it was a worse morning.
What happened?
Oh, just a battle of wills for about 2.5 hours.
Wow. 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
Did you win?
Eventually.
Hey, way to go.
Got her to school an hour and a half late. But
Dang.
we made it.
What was she doing?
She just was resistant to do any simple, normal, everyday thing.
Phew.
So
Tough.
That is...
the will is strong with that one. So it takes a while to win.
It does. It does. I think you got... Well, I mean, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. So it's kind of like battling yourself in a way, wouldn't you say?
I'm aware that I can...
I wasn't saying that. I was just saying, in general...
Sure. No, I'm sure that's not what you were saying. I'm sure you weren't saying that I can be strong-willed sometimes.
Fight for hours.
All right, so so anyway, well, let's get into what we're going to talk about this morning, which is what Mo preached on this past Sunday. He took us through Luke chapter 1, really looking at Zechariah and Mary, who both said the same thing to the angel Gabriel, however, with a different heart, which is sort of wild. So I want you to sort of jump in with that little bit of an intro, Mo, and then one of the things that you do have to tell us about is the car accident that happened outside your house and how that somehow made it into the sermon. Ready to go.
Yeah. So the angel Gabriel shows up to Zechariah, and he said, "Hey, your wife, who's old and hasn't had kids because she's been barren, she's gonna have a kid. It's going to be John the Baptist." And he goes, "How is this going to be?" And then Gabriel says the same thing to Mary of, "Hey, you're going to have a kid as a virgin." And she says the same thing. How is this going to be?
Right.
Yep.
But the funny thing is, and this is where I guess Gabriel had some special discernment from God.
Right.
And he goes, because you didn't believe, you're going to be mute until the kid's born.
Right.
And with Mary, he's like, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only mute, but because it says that he had signs made to him. He was probably deaf too, which the angel doesn't say. But you have to assume that. Why else are they making signs to him?
Oh, interesting.
So he
You're
couldn't
right.
speak and he couldn't hear. Which
Oh,
just sucks.
that I didn't even put that in.
I didn't elaborate on that at all.
That is wild. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So here you got a deaf mute now.
Yep.
He can't hear what anybody's saying. He can't enjoy. Imagine how fun it would be to be a proud father at an old age and say, look what God has done. And you can't even enjoy it because you can't hear what's going on. Now, maybe he already couldn't hear because he was old. I mean, has anybody ever been to Thanksgiving table and it's like you got grandpa there and you start talking and midway through he just tunes out and he just is in his own world and you're like, I just said a lot of words to the air. Anyway, so I think that might have been happening, but he clearly couldn't hear, he couldn't talk, and that was because he did not believe.
Yep.
Now, Catie, has there ever been a moment where you did not believe and you got direct punishment like that?
Like what kind of punishment?
I don't know. You tell me. This is the part where I feel like if one thing that's great about you, when I ask you a question, somehow answers come. So it's amazing. So if there's been things where you've believed stuff and you haven't believed stuff, and have you seen reward or consequence because of that?
This is one of those questions that I would have loved 10 minutes to process.
Listen,
or
we
to
don't do
think
10 minutes of
This
process.
is a really tough application one.
Yeah.
Because this is like a direct
I'm
revelation
having to just
from God,
reflect on
from
the
an
last
angel.
31 years of my life.
Well, when you didn't, wasn't there a moment you didn't believe your parents on something, or didn't believe and then there's a consequence for that? I don't really think that's hot touch.
This is so to make the question more specific. What promises of God
There you go.
have you not believed and have gotten punishment for that don't have to do with your salvation? This isn't like God being like, you're not mine anymore or whatever.
But
it's like God
sweet
said
consequences because it's
God said something to you and you didn't believe him, and there was a consequence because of
I mean, because here, I think I love about Zechariah is it's like, not that God doesn't love him, not that God doesn't, I mean, the consequence that he gets for not believing is like, oh, you just saw an angel. You literally just freaked out.
Yeah.
And now you're not going to believe what the angel says? Isn't that wild? To me, that's wild. To me, that's like even, for the little that I do believe about stuff, like I believe that a parachute will hold me, but I didn't really believe it until I went out the airplane.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me where I feel like Zechariah, I think he believed in God. I don't think he didn't believe in God. He clearly believed in God. He given his whole life to following God. What else would you do? But then the moment where he's met with an angel, his thought isn't like, well, whatever this guy's bringing, I'm getting. His response is, how can this be? Yeah. I'm old. And then that's where we go, nothing is impossible with God, which is what the angel actually tells Mary, which I love that reality. He doesn't tell that to Zechariah. He'll learn that the hard way. But how will this be? Well, nothing's impossible with God. Mary's like, all right, so let it be done to your servant. Yeah. I think that's the beauty that I'm really experiencing there with that, of just that trusting God in a real tangible way. And I think that's hard for us as people. And maybe that in general, his promises or his goodness, his grace, and you've probably seen this with your kids. We're all parents at this point. When you tell your kids something, they don't really believe you. Have you experienced that with Ava?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would be one thing that she doesn't believe you on yet?
Like if I tell her I'm going to give you a spanking if you do this.
Yeah. She's like, no, you won't. Oh, all right. Let's do the dance. Yeah. I think that would be that's one way to look at it. I think for me, it's like when I tell my children to do something, and then they don't want to do it, and I go, you know that I love you, right? And they have to really think about it, and they go, yes. So everything I'm telling you to do is because I love you, not because I don't love you. And they have to think about it, and they're really weighing it in their head and their heart. Does my daddy love me because he's asking me or telling me this? I don't know if I believe it. And I think that's where a lot of us are with God. And I think that's where Zechariah was. Like, again, it's like if you were to write it down, yes, God loves me. But then when God asks me to do something, you're like, I don't know.
This is a weird one because this is like his desire. It's like if you have, I don't know, for your kid, if your kid's asking like, Daddy, give me like the new PlayStation. And he's been asking for forever. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to get you the new PlayStation. And for your kid to be like, oh, you're not going to do it.
Yo,
it's like, that's so weird.
Oh, that would be so hurtful.
Yeah.
That would be hurtful. If I were to give, okay, so my third son, Titus, all he wants is a Switch. He's been asking for a Switch since January, okay? And I'm like, no, you're too young for a Switch. No, you're too, and then you're like, okay, overtime. All right, maybe. Yeah. And then I'm like, all right, I'm fully decided I'm gonna get him a Switch. Yeah. And then I go on Christmas, present him this, and I'll say like, because we don't really do Santa Claus. I'll be like, hey, we're getting you the Switch, but you have to wait till Christmas to get it. Yeah. And then he goes, no, you won't. Mm-hmm. Man, that's hurtful.
That is hurtful, yeah.
Because what you're saying is like, my word's not good. Mm-hmm. What you're saying is like, I don't really love you and I don't want good things for you. I finally acquiesced.
See, I don't know that would bother me.
Really? Because
I think I would just be like, well, okay.
And then you're not getting it.
You're not fine.
Getting it. Yeah. Which is
okay, all right.
But maybe that's just because that's how I was raised. Like,
so there's trauma there.
I don't know that I would call that trauma.
Let's talk about Thanksgiving. How did that go?
I would call that trauma. I think that sometimes God allows us to experience punishment that we brought on ourselves. Not necessarily that he was like, because I can't think of a time where I felt like God deliberately punished me for something.
Punishment might not be the right word, but discipline, would that be okay?
Discipline is way better.
Yeah, all right, fine.
I can think of many times where I have experienced like a version of punishment that...
Well, we can use discipline.
But like...
There's a consequence to your action.
A consequence to, yes, my disobedience. Right. And just my selfishness of. So I guess an example, and I'm trying so hard to answer your question because I think it's a good question, but I think my brain is just so fried already that I'm trying hard.
Have another swig of Malone's coffee.
So this last year I've been trying to work on not dwelling on like things I did wrong or like parenting mistakes or like, you know, if a morning like this morning happened a year ago, then it would have gone way differently. I would have lost my crap. And probably a lot of like rage slapping would have happened,
Right.
a lot of screaming, a lot of just, it would have been awful. So I had to learn that I'm punishing myself when I sit and I dwell in this shame of I could have done that better, or I'm not doing something beneficial to my heart,
As you're talking, I'm thinking Romans 8:1. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ.
Yes.
So that's the promise that has been given to you, and you're
Yes.
going like, no, I'm going to keep my shame.
Right. I'm literally sitting there like, no, I need to punish myself. I need to feel guilty about this
Right.
because I'm terrible, and I need to remember this, and I need to know that, like, I need to feel bad about this.
There's a part of that I can appreciate because like whenever Austin loses a game. And any sport, I'll be like, remember this feeling, remember this pain. We will never lose again. You know, like I can go there.
Well, but it wasn't-
like,
it's-
we're gonna go train harder. Like I can get, but I don't think that's where you're going.
No,
with that.
that's not, no. Where I was at was,
Sorry.
I need to remember how crappy of a mom I am.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
gosh, yeah.
So that in the future,
Yeah.
when this happens again, it's expected because I suck.
Okay, so this is where I want to take you to Zechariah. It could have been like, I'm sure God does promises.
Yeah.
I'm sure He answers prayer for other people.
Yeah.
But for me, clearly, because what it said about Elizabeth is that God removed her reproach from among the people. So
Yeah.
she was a disgrace.
Yep.
And you brought this up that I thought she wouldn't have felt disgrace if she was like an honored member of the community. Like,
Yep.
it was like, oh, yeah, Elizabeth, clearly she's done something wrong because, you know, look at her.
Yep.
No kids.
Yep.
And I think that was a big deal that she carried and that shame that she carried. And so I think Zechariah sort of weighed on him as well. Clearly, God's promises are for somebody else. And is that kind of, because I think you believe in God's grace for other people. I've seen you share Jesus, and obviously you're very vocal about sharing your faith. So clearly you believe it for
I
other
didn't
people.
believe that I deserved grace for a second. Like I didn't. I just thought there was a time a year ago, like within the last year and a half, there was a time where I genuinely believed that God was punishing me by giving me Ava.
Wow.
Like I was so low, and I was like, this is punishment. I did something. Like God is disciplining me because He is angry with me.
Yeah, that part is the not true part, right? Because the way He looks at you is the same way He looks at Jesus. and I'm so glad you brought that up because I think somebody there is saying the same thing. They're going through circumstances that are really hard, and you've assumed a motive behind God's allowing this to happen is because you deserve pain, hurt, and wrath. But what we do know is that God loves you, Catie, as much as He loves Jesus because of John 17. I pray Jesus praying. I pray, Father, that you would love them even as equal to the way you love me. So you have that promise, which is so wild. And then on top of that, Jesus saves you from your sin, and then He saves you from the circumstances that we find ourselves in because our hope and our heart is in heaven. But He's allowing, just like Moses still had a ministry after he met God. Like he meets God on the mountain, and then God gives him a ministry. He does it alongside him. And so now you get to parent Ava alongside the Lord. And so this is what I think you know. But I think there might be somebody who doesn't know this, is that what Catie is doing, she's parenting Ava with God, Emmanuel, God with us, in the throes of tantrums, screaming, pain, to force Catie to rely on him and not on her own understanding. To which I think this goes back to why this is so true. You're going to have a Mary heart or a Zechariah heart. A Mary heart, you know what's beautiful about Mary hearts? They're young and they haven't been screwed over yet. Okay?
Right.
And Zechariah has got a heart that's been beat down over time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scarring there that you've learned the ways of the world. And that it might make you wise, but it doesn't make you godly. And what that's why I think God's always taken us to a childlike faith. And what I want Catie to hear, and what I want, if you're like Catie, what I want you to hear is like, there's moments where you're going to have to be reminded that he didn't save you to punish you. He saved you to grow you. And sometimes growing is painful. And so, man, that's wild. I think that's an incredible story.
Yeah, it is.
And I knew that you always, like I said, just kick it over to Catie and she'll make something awesome. Well, so the thing that kind of struck me about this is there's this great alarm. And I do want to go back to the story that you shared in the sermon because it was so random.
Oh, the car thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I was listening to that, and the whole time I'm thinking, I think I would have told this story way differently. Like, with a different kind of, like,
Emphasis.
manner.
No.
You know, I think
manner.
I think I
Oh.
would have, like, felt a little...
Here's your sermon critique. Yeah, go ahead.
It's
great.
just, you were telling it like such a dude. Like, such a
Oh,
dude.
yeah, yeah.
Like, this is what happened. And then I was like, what? And
But you see how I got to the story, like the purpose of the story was? Or
I
was it-
don't...
You don't remember what it was?
It's like, I think I saw what you were... I thought it was like a very funny story to use. But I understood that you
Did
were
you get
trying
the
to
point
say,
of
like,
the
it was a
illustration?
shock.
There we
Yes,
go. Okay,
like, it
good.
was
We
a
got
shock.
there. We got
Like,
there. All
yes,
right, good.
Hey, as long as we got
No.
there, it's fine.
Yeah, good. good.
No, I understood the
Okay, good.
point
Okay,
you were
good.
trying to make.
Okay, good.
It was a funny story to use, but
That's so
I
good.
understood that you were like, we've seen, you know, it's not like a car crash is like
Happens every day.
so bizarre.
Right.
Like, it's not like it's like crazy,
Yeah.
you know? It was a crazy moment
Yep.
and you were still shocked,
Yep.
but it wasn't something so like, it's not like we saw an angel.
Saw an angel. Right.
And so I understood that connection.
So how would
but
a
the
wo-
way
how would
that
a
you were
woman tell
telling
the
the
story?
story.
Yeah, how would a woman who really
Well,
knows how to tell stories?
there was like no concern for the guy, which I get, or
He
like
was
maybe,
fine.
or like the daughter, like you were like, yeah, it happened outside the little girl's window or something, and
Yeah,
I
that
would
was-
have been like,
And I said the dad
that
was
is
probably
so
like so
sad.
Yeah.
It just was.
You need to dwell there a little longer.
You just were. It just.
She was
cracked me
fine.
up.
She was
You were
fine.
like, she was fine.
Oh, and
She has to go to therapy now every Wednesday.
Well, I'm like, poor girl. Like, this wreck happens right outside her window, and like, it just. The
and apparently
entire
that's the second
time,
one. It's
I'm
happened
like,
before, and the last guy he killed himself on the tree outside their house. So I should have said that. So this one isn't as bad. That probably would have made the story better. I honestly, I never think of. I almost never think
Now,
of
if
these
you
stories.
thought, can I just get some credit for empathy right there?
yeah.
Oh, thank you, because he has zero.
That's coming from you? Oh gosh. Where have we gotten to? My God. So it's the girl that you have the problem with?
Well, no. I feel like I would have told the story with like a little more emotion, you know, like there's kind of like a depth of emotion that like you would have if you tell a story about this.
For those who
wreck.
didn't hear the story, can you
It was
retell?
a bad guy.
It was a
Why
bad
would
guy.
I have that much
Yeah, he was a
concern
bad
for a dude who
guy.
fled
He
the
was a
scene?
criminal.
But I
In
didn't
helicopters.
know what you didn't explain that.
Yeah,
until,
I
like,
did.
the
I said he
end.
left. Yeah. And he got caught.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
news.
He was going through the backyard.
The
of my
coppers
neighbor's
got
guy.
him.
He was hiding in the doghouse.
Oh. He's like, "You good? I'm good." Okay, well, please tell the story one more time, because I think let's tell
No.
the dude style, because I feel like this would be
Oh
good
my
for
gosh.
see her reaction.
Okay,
Go ahead,
Yes, just
recap it, will you?
Wait, who's the guy deserves no empathy. The only empathy he deserves is from the beginning when you don't know what happened to him.
yeah.
And Lauren,
That's what I was thinking.
And Lauren had
Who is the girl in the story?
who's the- yeah. So we hear we're like, okay, something happened, and Lauren gets up And she starts to go, and I'm like, Lauren, please go back. I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
And I, praise God for Texas, and be able to get my gun.
Yeah.
And I go outside, and this dude, like, climbs out of his window. He's fine. He just, like, sprouts up, and he's like, are you good, bro? I was like, I'm good. Like, are you good? He's acting really funny. So at this point, I have no empathy.
A concern about the dude.
Yeah.
It just,
Was he armed?
whatever. You know.
I don't know. He just looked funny, bro. He was just like jumping all over the place. He's like, I'm good. I was like, you were acting weird, bro. So I backed up, and then he just like, I'm gonna go give somebody a call, and he just takes off. And I was like, oh frick.
Did you like check on your neighbors?
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
We offered
Why
to
didn't
go.
you say that?
Yeah, we, dude, Lauren went to go offer the guy. He's like, hey, I can give her a ride tomorrow in the morning because all 4 of their cars are totaled. I should have said that about the girl in the ride. What made it seem like I didn't care for this?
You just don't care about those people, man.
No, that's not what I was saying. It was such a casual story for such an
okay.
intense. Like,
Oh, that was about
experience.
as. I guess that's the point. Is like because not that Zechariah going into the Holy of Holies to offer incense
Yeah.
is a big deal, but he was not expecting Gabriel. That was like
Yeah.
shocker.
Yeah.
So
And
was Gabriel, it was the same angel.
yeah,
For
so,
Gabriel
the
and
Gabriel had a mission to talk to 2 people. One responds in non-faith, one's responds in faith, but they both say the same thing.
What was
which
the
is
time difference in this? Like, how many years?
Well, remember,
Difference?
6 months. So Gabriel goes to Zechariah, and she's pregnant at some point after that, I'm sure, because they have to do the thing. And then he goes and visits Mary, and then she heads over, and she's 6 months pregnant. So maybe even if it took her like it's in between the 5th and 6th month. I don't think it took her a full month to get over to where she was, but she has to walk. It wasn't like she could take the bus or get in her scooter, moped, drive
Yeah.
over.
It was like 100 miles almost.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Wait.
she had to get. So it may have taken them, at least a couple weeks for her to get over there, but 6 months roughly. So yeah, all right. So okay, all right, hold on. So the other part of your sermon that I really enjoyed was the chicken shawarma, and I found out that some people don't know what shawarma is. And I got asked, can you explain?
Wait, what
and
was
I kind of gave it with chicken, but can you explain shawarma? Because it's not always.
It's like
chicken.
an Arabic burrito.
Yeah, an Arabic burrito, like tacos. Like the way that Austinites think about
remind me what
tacos,
the chicken shawarma
Arabs
was?
think about shawarma, right?
Wait, what?
So the way that Austinites think about tacos
Yeah.
is the way that Arabs think about shawarma.
Shawarma? Austinites and tacos are different cultures. Shawarmas come from like Greek,
Middle
Middle
Mediterranean.
Eastern, Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean,
Austinites like tacos.
yeah, but the taco truck and everywhere you go in Austin,
Everything's tacos.
everything's tacos.
Austinites
Yeah.
love tacos.
I guess Arabs and shawarmas are like it's like Mexicans and tacos.
Okay, there you go. Mexican
yeah,
tacos.
yeah.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. That's
Yeah.
way better.
But hold on. What was the
We're the
shawarma
center of the
thing
world
again?
here in Austin, okay?
Can you explain?
Yeah, tell her what shawarma is.
I was just like I just remember my dad being real happy when he found out that my mom was pregnant and he owned a shawarma shop
that's right,
for his
that's right.
graduate like when he was in grad school, and he was like, all right, everybody, I'm having a son or I'm having a kid and everybody gets a shawarma. So he like passed out free
Hold
shawarmas.
on.
to
The thing
everyone.
that's kind of odd about this story is
Yeah.
your dad owned a shawarma shop in grad school,
yeah.
which means,
But isn't he rich now?
well, he was rich
Yeah,
then.
he was rich then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of those
You
things.
can't own something and go to grad school.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really
yeah.
own something really and be that rich.
What do you mean?
Like if he owns a shop,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to prove it. He was like, Dad, I don't want you to. Is one of those things. He's like,
so is he rich now because of the shawarma shop?
no, he was. They were filthy rich way before, but it's one of those things like I don't want to take Daddy's money. I want to like prove.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things,
Uh,
and he
so-
did.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
All right, well, I do, and I love the part where you talked about you're praying for your dad. Because I think several people came up to me and were like, "Wow, I didn't realize," and it's like I think you've mentioned this almost every time you preach, so I'm not sure how they were not paying attention then. But talk to me about how your dad isn't saved and he is in Jordan. He is a Muslim,
Yeah.
nominally Muslim.
Yeah,
Or,
nominally. Yeah, he's not a real Muslim. If he was, then he'd be
like
full
jihading.
Hamas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a good dude, but he doesn't know Jesus.
Nope.
And that puts a little, in your relationship. How is that for you?
Honestly, that wasn't that bad. It was It was very like cordial. Like, hey, we just can't do this, and I dipped out, and then I was like, cool. But ever since then, it's just like he would send me like videos of Muslim stuff. I'd send him videos of Christian stuff, and send like Bible verse and all this stuff, and it wasn't bad. Like, it was just cool. The thing where we stopped talking recently over the past year is he purposefully put his name on my grandma's property in Ukraine, who's
So
my
you're
mom,
Ukrainian, yeah.
my mom's mom,
Right.
because he was just like, hey, like my mom took away my son, and I'm gonna like, and now that his name is on her property, my grandma can't receive her pension. So he's just like, hey, I'm just gonna make it hurt, and I was like, well, that sucks. Can you not do that? He's like, nope, and I was like, all right, well. That sucks. So now I'm not going to talk to you.
Wow.
So it wasn't even the Christian Muslim stuff, because, I mean, he's not.
He doesn't. He's not.
He doesn't.
Whatever.
Believe, he doesn't have that. He doesn't care about it enough.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it's not his life.
Right.
It's just where he grew up, and
Does he have other wives? Like, does he have
he has no. So he has one wife now, but a bunch of
concubines?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What a interesting life.
Yep.
And so you guys haven't really communicated since that
No.
apartment issue, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So,
wild. Okay,
yeah.
so what I loved about that is like the amount of faith that it takes for you to engage God about your dad,
Yeah.
and still. And this is why, and I've always said this: every pastor has daddy issues, including me. And I think that what happens is that what allows people like us to engage is the God of the ages is our dad, which makes it working for him way easier.
Yeah.
Because all of the having to prove yourself, in a sense, is, at least for me, is gone because I'm
Yeah.
so approved. I was reading this morning in Daniel 9:23, and I know this is like a random aside, but it says God gives him this vision, and he says, Daniel, you are greatly loved. And I was like, what a weird place to put that. And it's Angel Gabriel
Yeah.
coming to Daniel, and he says, you are greatly loved.
Wow.
And I was so moved by that, primarily because if I know that God loved Daniel and he loved Jesus way more than you could assume Daniel,
Right.
then I get more love than Daniel got. And Daniel was like pretty much perfect. Like, you don't ever find Daniel sinning. Like, I'm sure he did somewhere, and he's in fact in Daniel 9 he's praying for forgiveness for his own sins, but and the sins of the people. But I appreciated that, is that here God greatly loves, and because that takes away this. He's just an energy source. He's just you have emotion. You have a care. You have a desire for someone. And that, to your point, Catie, earlier, is God isn't like, he is fire, but he's fire with feeling, in a sense where he has compassion towards you and deep love for you. And the only way he can wrap his arms around you is because Jesus came, died on the cross, put his spirit, rose from the dead, put his spirit inside you. And so you can feel that warmth of his love that just sort of wraps you up. And that's what's so powerful about this kind of faith, and why it's so wild that Gabriel, who did talk to Daniel, Gabriel, who did talk to Zechariah, Gabriel, who did talk to Mary, communicates this great love for all the world, specific to a person, but then even greater to save the world from its own sin.
Yeah.
So wrap that in and put it on a bow for me, because we did start Advent a day early, because we can. But talk to me about like what it means, the Advent that we're waiting for now.
Yeah, I think kind of just like when I used my dad as the example for being happy to share the good news of I'm going to have a kid with Zechariah. And I said this during second service. I don't think I said it during first. It was a punishment for him to not be able to share the good news, the evangelion. And I think I said that for the average
You said this first service, not second?
I said the second service.
Yeah, because I missed that
Well,
one. This is great.
And I said that for the average evangelical Christian, if they were told, hey, your punishment is you won't be able to share the good news, I don't actually think they'd see it as punishment.
Right.
So I feel like there's I feel like that's in the Advent
Yeah.
is like Zechariah, he got to lose out on sharing when he wanted to.
Mm.
And it's like, do we even want to? So I feel like that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the church.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's a great challenge.
Yeah, yeah. To be in Zechariah's place where you're upset,
Yeah.
you first have to have a desire to where you want to share.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
Again, this goes back to probably the if there's a primary issue of the American evangelical church, it's like the consumeristic mindset of I consume my religious goods and services, and I go home and do my next thing. I go to consume my workout goods and services. I go to my whatever sports thing, and I go consume that,
Yeah.
and then I go to Starbucks and I consume that, and so church becomes another feel-good positivity moment as opposed to this is life.
Yeah.
And I have the answer. I literally have the answers to eternal life. I literally have the answers to all that is good in the world, and I can share it with you and give you hope, but something is preventing me, and I'm so grateful that I'm mute right now. I think that's,
Yeah.
you would say that and what I want you to say is like, you're not mute. In fact,
Yeah.
the good news is if you've received that, it's time to give everybody a shawarma.
Yeah.
I think that's how excited you should be, and I think that's how excited we are, and I think that's the good news. Catie, any other thoughts on the excitement of sharing about Jesus?
No.
That's just something that comes intrinsic to you. How's it going with sharing with your neighbor?
Good. I heard some playing and friends over at their house a few days ago, and so I just walked on over. And
I love it.
yeah, just
So wait, you just walked over and said like, "Hey, can my daughter come and play?"
no, they were having like a
Party?
gathering.
Oh,
it was
fun.
like a Saturday morning, and they were having. It was like so. I mean, I don't.
Did you
mean,
text first, or you just show up?
No, I just showed up. They're Israeli.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's just what you do. Okay.
Like they loved it.
Okay, awesome.
So, sadly, all of the family members that they have been searching for, they were all murdered.
Whoa!
And so, they were having all of their like Israeli friends over to have like a kind of like a memorial.
Mhm.
And so I didn't realize it was a memorial, but I knew that they had just found out 2 days before that the last family member that they were like waiting to see if she was either kidnapped or
Killed.
murdered. They just found out that she was found murdered in Gaza.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, I hear a lot of people over there, and so I had Ava, and we didn't have any plans, so we just walked over and walked into the backyard, and they were all hanging out, and they were having like a traditional meal together, like a traditional breakfast, and yeah.
That's like wild.
And I mean, of course, like I walked in and I immediately realized, oh, this is like a memorial service that they were having, like not like a memorial service, but
Right,
just
but a memorial gathering.
Yes.
Like, were they
Yeah.
telling stories about their relatives and
Yes,
stuff? Oh,
yeah.
man.
And so
heavy.
I was like, I'm so sorry. I just heard everyone here, and I've met all of her friends,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and they all know who I am.
Oh,
and
that's
so
sweet.
I walked in, and they're like, oh, hi, and she's like, I love that you know that you're just invited over whenever, and that you just came over, and I was like, yeah, I hope that it's okay that it was this morning, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm so glad you like just walked into our house,
That's really special.
Wow.
and so.
That's really being a blessing. Way to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's powerful. All right. Well, hey, I don't know how we roll from there, but thanks for watching. Man, I would love for you to like, share, and subscribe. And if you don't, if you have any questions, text us 737-231-0605 or go to pastorplek.com. We'd love to hear from you wherever you're at in your spiritual journey. Just give us a little ring, let us know, and tell a friend. So grateful for you joining us from our house to yours. Have an awesome